Well, the candidates in Ontario's PC leadership race are gearing up for their first face-off. TVO's The Agenda will host a debate with the three contenders next week. One of the topics will almost certainly be their position on a carbon tax, a key pillar in the PC platform. They all say they oppose it. We just heard from candidate Doug Ford, but what about Caroline Mulroney? Why has she changed her tune on the carbon tax? How else would she change the party platform? Joining me now, I'm glad to say, is the Ontario PC Party leadership candidate, Caroline Mulroney. I'm very glad you were able to make it. I've got a whole long list of questions for you, so we'll both have to talk fast.
Very happy to be here. Thank you, Terry.
Thanks for coming in. The first question I have for you, it arises out of the Q&A that you did with Lisa Raitt on Monday of this week, in which you said that Ontario had a choice about the carbon tax. You said Ontarians could either let Ottawa impose it and then use the revenue as they saw fit, or impose a provincial carbon tax to, quote, make sure that we put the money back in people's pockets. Then 2 days later, you said no carbon tax. What changed?
Well, I come to this race as the only nominated candidate who's put their name forward to be a leadership candidate. And since November, I have been part of the PC Party team, knocking on doors, talking about our platform, which included a carbon tax. And so I've been one of many candidates doing that. Caucus members have been talking about it in their ridings as well. And so when I was sitting with Lisa on Monday, I was talking about where what the position has been, and I said it also at the same time that I would be listening to members. I said that I was against all new taxes, including a carbon tax. The carbon tax never sat well with me. But now that I'm putting my name forward and I'm going to be developing my own plan, I was clear that I oppose all new taxes.
You said you'll explore options, right? To explore options for opposing the federal carbon tax. That sounds a bit like, you'll forgive me, you've left yourself enough wiggle room to drive a truck through, right? Because you can say, well, I did explore the options, but there aren't any options.
Well, that's what we're doing. We're exploring all the legal options, and there's a number underway, and I will be looking into those options. Well,
but if you don't want the carbon tax, the federal carbon tax, what legal options do you think exist? I mean, I'm thinking that the province of Manitoba just did a legal analysis, did they not? And I'll just quote Premier Brian Pallister, who said, and I quote, "If we just say no, we get Trudeau. If we go to court, we lose," unquote. So what legal options do you think exist? How would you win this?
Well, as I said, we're going to explore them. There are other provinces that are looking at their own legal actions. And so my team and I are looking at exactly that, trying to figure out if there are other legal options. And as Premier, I will continue to do that.
And if they're not?
We will be fighting the carbon tax. Ontarians are already paying too much. Life has become unaffordable, and there will be other ways that we'll be able to protect the environment.
But when I ask you if they're not, I mean, if there are not legal options, then you lose. You're fighting a losing battle. Why?
Well, if enough provinces get on board, then the federal government is losing the battle, and so. Look, I am at the beginning of my candidacy, and I'm developing a new platform, and I will be reaching out to leaders across the country to understand what they're looking at and make sure that we pick the right thing for
Let me ask you about that new platform. There's an existing platform that was arduously worked out by your own account. It included grassroots participation, and it assumes roughly $4 billion over the life of the next government in revenues from the carbon tax, which the party plans to spend on tax cuts. So if you don't have those revenues, haven't you blown a giant hole in the party's existing platform, which is a platform with no way to fund it?
Well, the other funding source for the platform is looking at ways to run our government more efficiently. And just recently, the Auditor General in Ontario looked at only 14 of hundreds of programs and found $1 billion of waste. So I'm confident that once we get there, we have to wait for the Liberals to come out with their new budget, but I'm confident that when we get there, we will be able to find ways to fund the platform and fund these important policies.
So it's our old friend waste, fraud and abuse, isn't it? We'll get it from waste. Well, the provincial auditor spoke of a potential $1 billion. You need way more than that to flesh out the $4 billion that you're missing. There's a very long list of expensive promises in the existing platform. $3 billion in personal tax cuts, tax credits for childcare, that's $389 million. Sales tax credits, that's $589 million. Small business cuts, subsidizing hydro bills, mental health. There's even a break on winter tires. In all, there's $4.5 billion less revenue that the PCs would take in if they form government under that plan. Without the carbon tax, you've got to either scrap the promises, right, or blow up the deficit.
Look, there is a lot of waste in Ontario and the Liberal government. For 15 years, they have doubled the size of our budget, and they've been doing that in ways. There's waste in all programs across the province, and so we will be looking. I'm starting this week. I've started looking at the platform, and when I put together a plan for the PC party to look at, it will be fully costed.
But so it's going to be a whole new platform, though.
There are so many great policies in the existing platform, and we're going to start there.
Well, if you keep those, don't you have an obligation in the leadership campaign to say how you're going to pay for these promises?
There is, as I said, when my plan comes out, it will be costed.
Okay. One particular feature, which of course, as you well know, really pains a lot of Ontarians, is hydro rates. This morning at the Manning Centre, you faulted the provincial Liberals for adding more debt to provide a rebate on the sky-high hydro bills that Ontarians get. Then you turned around and said immediately, we've got to find solutions that move a lot. I'm quoting again, we've got to find solutions that move a lot of the cost to the taxpayer base, unquote. Well, that's exactly the same as what the Liberals, you just condemned the Liberals for adding making taxpayers subsidize the hydro bills. Then you say we've got to move it to the taxpayer base. It's the same thing, isn't it?
No, that's not what happened. To deliver a tax cut, to deliver a cut to hydro payers in Ontario, the Liberal government took out more debt and moved it and provided the tax cut by adding this debt to Ontarians. And so they've added to our debt load in order to provide this rate cut.
And so would you by adding to the taxpayer base?
Not at all. These are there's conservation funding, for instance, conservation measures that go directly to the ratepayers, and they're more properly put to the tax base. There are a lot of measures that we can look at, but the first thing we're going to do to ensure that Ontarians stop paying so much for hydro is to stop entering into contracts for highly subsidized energy that we don't need.
And you try to get out of the contracts that you dislike that are already signed.
There are a number that are still in these pre-construction periods that we can look at because we don't want to be adding to the cost as we do that.
All right. Finally, I want to ask you about the state of the PC party, which, as you know, is in some disrepair. The interim leader says that your party has a problem with what he calls rot, another quote. It appears that the number of the members was greatly exaggerated. Several nominations are alleged to be fraudulent. Hamilton West, there's a police investigation. There's quite a list here. Ottawa West, Nepean, 28 more ballots in the boxes than were registered to vote. Ooh, and the riding executive resigned en masse in Newmarket, Aurora. Dozen riding officials also quit, blaming blatant disregard for democratic rights. Why, my question is, why would voters pick your party to run the province if it can't run itself?
So I put my name forward to be a candidate to be the MPP for York Simcoe last summer. Yeah. And I have been working with candidates and volunteers and caucus members. These are great people who put a lot on the line, sacrifice a lot to fight for their vision of a better province. And that's what the PC party is, and that's what the PC party stands for. Our interim leader, Vic Fidelity, is working very carefully to make sure that our party is in the strongest position it can be in. But I know that the PC party stands for integrity, and it is, the people of Ontario expect us to win this election. They want us to win this election, and will be in the strongest position we can be. And our interim leader is doing that job now, and so I defer to him as he continues in.
And you agree with him that there is some rot to be rooted out?
I believe the PC party is a great party, the party that needs to lead this province. I joined because I believe that we are well positioned to do it because we represent Ontarians, the interests of Ontarians across this province, and so I defer to him on the measures that he's taking now. But But we're a very strong party and ready to lead.
I know you've got a very busy schedule ahead just today and the next day and the next day after that. I know what these leadership campaigns can be like, and I appreciate you taking the time to come in and talk to us. Caroline Mulroney, appreciate it.
Thank you.